Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
Today, Tuesday, March 2nd, is the feast of Saint Angela of the Cross, Virgin and Foundress. And these are today's headlines. Cardinal Pietro Parolin looks ahead to Pope Francis's upcoming visit to Iraq. Over 300 Nigerian schoolgirls have been released after they were kidnapped last weekend. And Vatican News speaks with the brother of assassinated human rights advocate Shahbaz Bhatti. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells. Our top story, Pope Francis's apostolic journey to Iraq is scheduled to begin this Friday, March 5th. During his 4-day visit, the Pope will meet with Christian communities as well as civil and religious leaders. It will be the Holy Father's first trip abroad in about 15 months as the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent restrictions on movement have posed a challenge to external travel. It's also the first ever papal journey to Iraq. The apostolic visit begins on Friday morning when the Pope departs from Rome for Baghdad's international airport. He's slated to visit several cities, including Mosul, Karakash, and Erbil. As preparations enter into high gear, the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, released a video message today highlighting the significance of this historic visit to the Middle Eastern nation and to its Christian communities.
I would like to underline, to stress three dimensions of this important visit of the Holy Father to Iraq. And the first one is the closeness to the Catholic Church. The Holy Father is going to Iraq just to show closeness to the Catholic Church, to the Christians. We know that the Church has suffered a lot during this year, has lost many Christians who have left Iraq for other countries. And then she needs a presence of the Holy Father, the successor of Peter, just to be encouraged and to continue her mission of witnessing Jesus Christ and the Gospel in the difficult situation in which she finds herself. The second aspect, the second dimension, very important, is to boast the efforts which are already started to reconstruct the country, to fight against corruption, to fight against sectarism, to give to everybody the place he deserves in the fabric of the society, each one independently of his religious belonging, member of the same family with the same rights and the same duty. And the third one is the important, also we can think about the meeting with Al-Sistani, the interreligious dialogue, the collaboration, the understanding, the fraternity between Christians and Muslims in view of the bien, of the good of the country and its brighter future.
And that was Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State, speaking about the Pope's upcoming visit to Iraq. In other news from the Middle East, an investigation by the United Nations has unveiled the data regarding tens of thousands of civilians who are still missing after being detained arbitrarily during 10 years of civil war in Syria. Francesca Merlo tells us more.
A United Nations Commission said in a report released on Monday that tens of thousands of civilians in Syria were arbitrarily detained in enforced disappearances during the country's 10-year conflict. The fate of many remains unknown to this day. The UN's Commission of Inquiry on Syria added that thousands more have been subjected to torture and sexual violence, offences that can amount to war crimes. The Commission has regularly reported on subjected human rights violations and abuses since the civil war erupted. According to the report, the Syrian government arbitrarily arrested and detained individuals and committed war crimes and crimes against humanity in the context of detention. Rival groups have also been blamed for atrocities, as they run jails where wide violations are reported against detainees. Syria has been devastated by a conflict that erupted after anti-government protests in March of 2011 turned into a deadly civil war. The fighting has left at least 380,000 people dead and caused half of the population to flee their homes, including almost 6 million refugees abroad. Large parts of Syria are destroyed and tens of thousands still live in tent settlements. The UN report is based on over 2,500 interviews with victims and witnesses conducted from 2011 to the end of 2020, in addition to photographs, videos, satellite imagery, official documents and reports from multiple sources. It is also based on investigations into more than 100 specific detention facilities, history documents, and continued detention-related violations and abuses by nearly every major party that has controlled territory in Syria since 2011. I am Francesca Merlo.
In Africa, government officials confirmed the release of over 300 schoolgirls taken by armed men on a Friday in northern Nigeria. It's the second time in less than a week that unidentified gunmen have kidnapped and then released schoolchildren. Father Benedict Mayaki has the latest updates.
Hundreds of schoolgirls who were kidnapped from their school last week in northern Nigeria by a group of unidentified armed men have been released, local authorities said on Tuesday. The students were abducted on Friday from Government Girls Secondary School in Jangebe, Zamfara State, the second time in a week that students have been taken from a school in the country. A few days before the latest kidnapping incident, over 40 people, including teaching staff and their family members, were abducted from a boys' boarding school in Niger State. They were released on Saturday. Confirming the release of the girls, Governor Bello Matawalle said in a post on Twitter that it gladdens his heart to announce the release of the abducted students from captivity. The governor also made reference to the scaling of several hurdles laid against efforts for their release, but did not specify what the hurdles entailed. On the subject of this latest incident, Pope Francis, during the Angelus on Sunday, condemned the vile kidnapping of the girls from their boarding school and invited everyone to pray for them so that they might return home soon. The Pope said that he is near to them and their families, and he invited everyone to pray that Our Lady might keep them safe. In Nigeria, school kidnappings have increased in frequency in recent times in a worrying trend that has many concerned parents rethinking enrolling their students in boarding schools, especially in northern Nigeria. First adopted by extremist jihadist groups, the tactic has now been adopted by other militants whose agenda remain unclear. This has contributed to an unfortunate breakdown of security in the country, where kidnap for ransom is becoming a very profitable industry. In December 2020, over 300 boys were abducted by armed gunmen in Kankara, Katsina State. The boys were later released after spending some days in captivity. Another high-profile kidnapping case was the April 2014 abduction of 276 girls by the Boko Haram jihadist group in the northeastern region of Chibok, Borno State. I'm Father Benedict Mayaki.
In other news, the Conference of European Justice and Peace Commissions, also known as Justice and Peace Europe, has added its voice to the appeal for an immediate end to the use of force against peaceful protesters in Myanmar who are calling for a return to democracy. Thaddeus Jones has more.
After 1 month of peaceful demonstrations against the military coup, which deposed National League for Democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi on February 1st, violence dramatically escalated on Sunday with the killing of at least 18 protesters. The violence was strongly condemned, amongst others, by the UN Human Rights Office. On the same day, Cardinal Charles Bo of Yangon, president of the Bishops' Conference of Myanmar, launched a new heartfelt call to stop the violence and for reconciliation. In his homily for the second Sunday of Lent, he stressed the need to return to the hard life of creating hope and peace, saying that all Myanmar's people should enter into a mindset of reconciliation and dialogue. He warned that hatred never drives away hatred, only love, and that an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. In their statement, the European Justice and Peace Commissions expressed concern on latest reports indicating a significant increase in violence and the casualties and suffering arising for society and citizens, and they convey their support to the people of Myanmar in their defense of democracy and solidarity with the peaceful protesters. They join with Pope Francis' appeal on February 7th to those having political responsibility to show sincere willingness to serve the common good, promoting social justice and national stability in view of a harmonious and democratic cohabitation. Justice and Peace Europe also urges a prompt release of all political prisoners and supports the call of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Myanmar to the military authorities to refrain from violence and seek reconciliation, while adhering to democratic principles and fully respecting human rights, including the right to life, the prohibition of torture, the freedom of assembly, media, and expression. I'm Thaddeus Jones.
And finally, it was 10 years ago today that Pakistani Catholic rights advocate and federal minister for minorities Shahbaz Bhatti fell to the bullets of assassins. On March 2, 2011, Shahbaz was on his way to work after paying a visit to his mother in Islamabad when his car was sprayed with bullets by unknown gunmen. Pamphlets left behind by the Taliban Al-Qaeda Punjab described Shahbaz as a Christian infidel for having fought for the rights of minorities and vehemently opposing Pakistan's controversial blasphemy laws. Shahbaz's elder brother, Paul Bhatti, is a surgeon who practices in Italy. Speaking by phone with Francesca Sabatinelli of Vatican News, Paul said that on the 10th anniversary of his brother's assassination, he particularly recalls his activism on behalf of the rights of all people of the world, especially in the field of education.
My younger brother Shahbaz has been fighting against all kinds of injustices in Pakistan and in other parts of the world. So therefore, his main ideology and struggle was that the human values and dignity should be honored, irrespective of their belief and religion. So this has been done by all his life, and his main focus was on education. I mean, in many institutions, there's the education where message of hatred and division is instilled in the minds of children. So they grow with this kind of hatred and division among their society, and they don't consider other people who don't belong to their faith. Therefore, violence, terrorism, extremism, and fanaticism has developed so much in these countries, which is not only problem for the minorities of Pakistan, it is problem for the rest of the world. So it should be addressed properly. So this is a great message he has launched that time, and we still need for that. Not only to protect the minorities or Christians of Pakistan, but to protect the peace of the world. So we all must stay together and avoid or try our utmost best that we can eliminate all this hatred material from these countries, from their school, which is violence not only for other countries, other people, but also to those who are used for this.
And that was Paul Bhatti, whose brother Shahbaz Bhatti was assassinated 10 years ago today. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories, you can visit our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. Many thanks to our technicians in studio. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells.